Good morning, Lydia. It is Tuesday and bleary-eyed and bushed versus bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So we'll forgive you. That's
Yeah,
okay.
definitely a good descriptor today.
Okay. Here we go. Today we are looking at a very interesting, well, they are also interesting. Number 17. We're looking at the fractal trajectory as an assessment tool to help pinpoint a person's growth stage, not only our own, but someone else. I mean, you're trying to serve someone. It's good to know where they are at because we don't serve in a vacuum. We try to figure out what is appropriate for the moment and for the person. So this morning we look at rules versus circumstantial wisdom. They're two very, very different things. And one's response to each of these shows where one is in his thinking, in his maturation, in his growth, in her growth, in her maturation. Okay, so let's start out. Let me fire a question first, and you feel free to ask questions as we go. What are rules and why are they important? What are they and why are they important?
I think they are boundaries that are put into place, um, and they are
Boundaries,
needed
okay.
as a safety measure, as a guidance tool, um, especially in the early stages, at foundational stages of, and you can put in there's a blank because it really can go for different things at different
Right.
points, I think.
So would it
Yeah.
be okay if we use the training wheels illustration on a bike?
Mm. Yeah,
I
that's
like can't
interesting.
ride a bike yet, freestanding. So you
Yeah.
probably would need to start off with training wheels. Some just have a knack for it. You put them on and they go. And they will fall a couple of times, but others, oh, the bike will stand and they will try and pedal and then nothing happens. So rules provide guardrails, but guardrails for early stage maturity. Now, what about rules for late stage maturity? What are your thoughts on that before we start panning this subject?
Sure. Um,
That's a
I
different
think
one to think of.
it does yeah, I've never thought about that. I think that there's still a need to have boundaries in place. I mean, there's a safety there. There's still a safety, even though I know we were using the training wheels as an example. I don't think, I mean, that illustration breaks down because at a point when you're riding the free riding bike, there are certain terrains you have to be mindful of, and speed and pace and etc. So, and there's rules there
Okay, there are
that
rules, but the
govern how
rules are very
you,
different. They are
yeah,
navigational rules that they have to.
yeah,
And by different sensitivities, I would say now your balance is different when you're on a rugged terrain on a mountain bike. It's intense balance issues. It's intense weight distribution issues. It's steering, those handlebars and the front wheel with care, with a different expertise, right? So it's interesting. The best we can say is the rules change. Well, into what they change is the issue. So in the early stages of life, we are very rules driven. Even in the Christian life, there are rules, right? Now the question is, at which point do I throw away the training wheels?
I think for the illustration, it's when you've gained a degree of mastery without them.
Ah,
They allow
wonderful,
you
wonderful.
for, right, that
A
movement, and you are
certain
able
level
to
of,
see. Yeah.
yes, a certain level of mastery in your life. Now you can toss away a whole host of rules, right? And you'll still keep on to a couple, right? If we say the rule of gravity always applies, yep. But once I put on like a bat suit and I jump off a cliff, I can fly on the wings of the wind.
Mm.
So I defy a particular rule, but I honor another rule.
Mm.
Because when I'm on the ground, I'm not aware of aerodynamics. But put me in the air, I become aware of the rules of aerodynamics, almost at the expense of gravity, right? Because the one counters the other. Very interesting. So it's good to have these illustrations, isn't it, Lydia? To be able to get people to see, you know. Some of us can be on the road for 50 years in our walk with the Lord, but we still got training wheels on. And that's sad because life gets tougher the longer you live inside of it. Now, mark my words. This is your daddy speaking. The longer you live, the harder it gets. Doesn't get easier. Oh, there's some things that gets real easy because you know your way around. But there's a sphere that you navigate when you're older that you have never navigated before. You navigate health issues as you get older. You navigate getting slower, right? Your edge is blunting. You don't have that Gillette edge anymore. You can't think that fast anymore. I mean, I was listening to Auntie Penny the other day. I'm sure she will forgive me for using the illustration, but she's saying that older you get, you start forgetting things and you can't keep them in that memory bank as long as you used to. And you start slowing. And she would say very tenderly, but I'm not, I'd love to do this with you every morning, but I have health issues that I'm combating. Now look at that, right? Now someone will say, well, but why didn't you get on top of it? Well, now you're just 50 years older than you used to be at 50 to 20. Wow, so it changes your world. Um, so you better learn to navigate well. And learning to navigate well has to do with getting those training wheels off and learning to go without the training wheels, right? I remember the first time I ever preached a sermon. I wrote out my sermon verbatim. I was an early teenager. Well, early, it was 16, 17, and I was asked to preach. And boy, I probably never sweated that profusely in my life up until that point. And I didn't look up once. I just read my notes that I had. But that first time drove me to do a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And I always had a thing about notes. Teach without notes is a very spiritual thing to do. So those who teach with notes are like dead in their heads. So it's a growing thing. Some things you outgrow naturally, but other things you have to outgrow very intentionally, strategically intentionally. And I would venture to say that in the New Testament under grace, uh, the prompts in the New Testament, letters of Paul, for example, are pre-wisdom prompts, right? They tell you what you need to be about in certain situations, in your home life, in your marital life, with your children, etc. They are what I would call pre-wisdom prompts. They fall very much still, call it rules if you want. I don't have a better word than rules, but prompts is my word. Like in Ephesians 4 to 6, Paul gives a whole lot of prompts that get you to poke in the right direction. Husband, love your wives. He doesn't talk about all the vicissitudes of what love looks like when you've just had a knockdown, drag out argument with her. So what do you do now? Well, just love her. Well, that's a whole navigation experience coupled with emotional feelings and everything else. So my point is chapter 1, 2, and 3 is about being something, and 4, 5, and 6 is about doing something. But those doings are all prompts. They're not the full picture. Because otherwise you have just restricted yourself to whatever's in the text there, and that's the be all and end all. What about those difficult situations you have to navigate in life that the text doesn't address directly? Right? In other words, here's a question. Does the biblical text tell me how to change my oil seal on my RAV4 Toyota?
No, where's
No.
none of that too.
So if I look for a book, chapter, and verse, I'm not going to find one, right?
Mm.
Not specifically. So just say, okay, now you need to be patient. You need to be ongoing and ongrowing and on. But that's as broad as it goes. Specificity now is something else. And often we overestimate our ability to pre-specify what people must do in a certain situation. Oh, you must just do this and this and this and this. And when I apply the prescripted rules, it should come out right. And then the cake flops. And then you wonder, why did the cake flop? Well, there's something that you probably didn't do, you weren't cognizant of or aware of. So rules is one thing. But as life progresses in its difficulty, I need a different set of skills. I need wisdom skills. Now, let's talk about that a bit, because how does that hit your ear, Lydia? Rules versus wisdom skills. Because they're not one and the same thing.
I feel as if rules tend to be immovable, whereas wisdom skills, there's a degree of flexibility to them, of movement to it.
It takes into account a whole host of things, right? It takes into account all the weather conditions surrounding that situation: temperature, air pressure, wind speed, sunlight. I mean, you can just keep going, right? Think of all the climatic conditions that exist in our lives around some of our hard issues. I really struggle with being a good housewife, or I really struggle being a provider in my family as a husband. Okay, that's a clear thing I need to work at. But now, how do I go at that? Right? I need to be taking into account a whole lot of weather conditions surrounding that. How did I get here? Because I didn't get here by osmosis. I got here due to a whole chain of events, interlocking chains or links of events. So when we talk about circumstantial wisdom, we talk about a very different thing, right? A decision or a set of decisions or doings that have to do with what is apropos for that moment. Now, let me give an example. You'd love the example. Two ladies separately have their own children. They have a kid each. They're both females, right? Now, one lady, during the night, rolls over onto her baby and kills it. Just she rolled onto the child, smothered the child. When she woke up the next morning, what did she do? She took her dead child and exchanged it with the other lady's baby for the live child. So she switched kids and said, "Oh no, this is my child." To which the other lady responded, "No, but this is not my child." And an argument breaks out. And if you don't know the story, it comes up in 1 Kings 3. And who's the king at that time? What did your guess be?
Solomon.
Solo. Solo is king. Solomon is king. And they can't resolve the issue. And what do? They come to the king. Now, watch the king, Lydia. Watch the king's brilliance in wisdom. He listens to the issue because the wrong mom says, "This is my child." The right mom says, "This is not my child," of two different babies. What does the king do? King grabs the live baby. Just picture this. In front of his throne, he stands up, he grabs the live child by the foot and hangs him up in the air. And what's the next thing he does? He pulls a sword. Now, he's not going to give the baby a haircut, right? Because there's no hair, number one. What does he do? He says something. He says, Well, since you can't resolve the issue, I will resolve the issue. And he takes the sword and he says, I'm going to cut the baby in two and I'll give one off to the one wife, one woman, and I'll give the other off to the other woman. What does the wrong mom say? The mom who claims the live baby. She says, cut the child, man, cut the child. I couldn't care. The mom, who's the legitimate mother of the live child, says, oh, please don't dare do that. Don't do that. Rather give the other mother the child. Now watch the wisdom in the situation. Someone else is called in who's got it. Wisdom. And he uses an instrument to solve the problem. And the instrument is a sword. It's almost like we would call the sword is the fourth denominator. Two wives, a live child and a dead child, a king, and a sword. Now, that's a great way to solve a problem, right? When two mothers are at each other, I laugh my head over this thing. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed. I don't have that level of wisdom. But remember old Saul. As a young man, he prays. The Lord says, what do you want me to do for you? Ask anything, I'll do it. That's what God says. What does the boy pipe up and say? Lord, give me wisdom to rule my people well. Wisdom. I was there probably also a whole lot of gold, more than Fort Knox, with all the security needed to guard my wealth. Man just says, just give me wisdom. And right in chapter 3, that's the prayer in chapter 2. And in chapter 3, he's got a live example of what wisdom looks like when it is embodied in a person. Pulls a sword, man. A sword. I'd have pulled a sword to chop up one of the ladies, and probably the wrong one, right? And he said, I'm going to chop this child in two. So I press the illustration, I press the real life example because wisdom is something that defies understanding, goes beyond intelligence and smarts, and functions at a level that you can't buy wisdom. You don't earn it the way you earn money. Wisdom is something you reach for. And it's something that God imparts. Comments? Questions?
I'm just struggling with the words there, post wisdom. I'm trying to wrap my head around. I understand the word to a point, but yeah.
Circumstantial wisdom is wisdom that comes after rules. So we actually should say more post rules.
Okay.
Maybe post rules would be a better one. So you've got rules as pre-wisdom, right? And circumstantial wisdom maybe as post-wisdom. But yeah, maybe better just grammatically, because then you got some way to hook the descriptor. Because there's a point where rules break down. Rules can't help. A couple is standing on the verge of divorcing each other. What are the rules now? And they've been in this relationship 20 years, and he's abusing her in every possible way, and he's been unfaithful. Now, if you were a rule keeper, right, you would say, no divorce under no circumstance. That's a rule. But what would a wisdom option be? Now, I'm not going to give you a live example because I haven't thought that through, because it's on a case-by-case basis, right? But wisdom is the ability to navigate the rhyme and rhythm of reality. Reality's got a rhyme to it, right? It's got a rhythm to it. Now, what do I mean by that? You get up every morning, right? Or do you stay in bed every day? No. There's a rhythm. Get up, sort Isla out, get her dressed, get her to school, come back, go on the air, and it doesn't stop. So there's a rhythm, And those rhythms will rhyme over each day, over each month, over each year. So reality has a rhyme and rhythm to it. And how to navigate those rhymes and rhythms is what requires wisdom. Because you've got the same rhythms, but how to respond to them is the issue. You can get up in the morning and say, oh God, it's morning. Good God, it's morning. Or you could get up in the morning and say, good morning, God, versus good God, it's morning. Two very different responses. So wisdom is post rules. Okay, talk to me. Is the silence deafening or is the silence deafening? It's definitely an area one has to think through, right?
I think I'm
It's
still trying to figure out. I understand skillful living. I understand how we're describing wisdom as navigating. You know, it
ability to
ebbs and
navigate.
flows, and yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
so I understand that part. What I'm struggling with is the, I don't know if I'm going to use the right term here, is the embodiment. Is embodied the right word in terms of how do I reach for something that God gives or that's found in Him? Because it's embodied, it's embedded in Him.
Right, because it's a
So,
relationship.
yeah,
Think of a relationship, right? You have a relationship with your husband. Your husband's not inside of you, right? But you have a relationship with him that, like you have with no other human being. Because that's the way it needs to be with a husband and wife in terms of intimacy, right? And so it's out of the context of intimacy that communion with one another is shaped. Intimacy shapes communion. We think content shapes communion, but intimacy is the thing that shapes community and communion. Does that make sense? So it
yeah,
is something that you reach for outside of you.
mm.
If any man lacks wisdom, James 1:6, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God who gives to all men liberally and doesn't hold back.
Yeah,
So already there's a way to access it. How do you access it? Through this thing called prayer. What is prayer? Prayer is a prayer, listen to how I describe prayer. Prayer is an acclimating faculty that orients me to navigate that orients me to navigational possibilities in reality. Now, navigational possibilities, we always look at there's only one other possibility to the possibility we have, but we don't realize there are zillions of possibilities, and only God can show you that, right? And if you watch movies enough, then you often hear this line, "Oh, I didn't have a choice. I
mm.
only I didn't have a choice. I didn't." And then the other guy said, "Oh no, but you did." And then they say it could have been this and this and this. But at that point, you didn't see anything else. I only had one choice. I had to save my baby. Well, I could have saved my mom. I could have saved my dad. There are always options, right? But we say no. There was no other choice. It's just we hadn't seen clearly enough to see other choices.
Yeah.
So prayer opens up this navigational opportunities that I don't see before I pray, because prayer acclimates. When I say acclimates, it acclimatizes me. It sets my temperature and my perception for navigational opportunities. That's why there are many decisions that could be the right decision. We just choose one of the right decisions. But we always just view it as this is wrong and that's right, and there are only two options. Well, there could be 100 options on each side right there. Right? So wisdom is accessed through prayer. Prayer is already it's not a magical thing. You remember we were talking about magical thinking in number 14.
Mm.
Because I think that's how most Christians live their life, at the magical level. Prayer is a magic button. When I push it, something happens. Now, something does happen when I pray, but it's not like it's this inexplicable thing. If any man lacks wisdom, if you don't have it, what do? You ask God. What is prayer?
Mm.
Talking to God, conversing with the cosmic God in whom we live and have our being, live and move and have our being. Okay. Now, are the waters even more murky now, or are they clearing a little?
I think it's slowly getting there. I think I'm also stuck in. I need to mull over the intimacy in a relationship. Will how did you
Will
put that?
show, will show something. Oh, intimacy
Will
creates
shape
community,
the.
communion. It shapes communion. If you say you and your husband, there's a communion between the two of you. We're not talking about breaking of bread now. We're talking about communion, this oneness, this one flesh thing that happens when the intimacy grows as a constant.
Mm.
There are things that show up that I didn't see before. There are things that happen that I haven't seen happen before. Things like that. You see, I'm not open to navigational opportunities when I'm not in touch with the God of the opportunities. So when I link with Him, in intimacy with Him, what happens? I start seeing navigational opportunities. Oh, here's one, and there's one, and there's one. You won't believe, ever since I went to the Toyota store the other day, it's a big Toyota parts store here in Somerset West. Oh, beautiful place, Lydia. You want to have your wedding reception inside of that building where they sell these cars. I mean, anyway, my point, all of a sudden, I saw we were parked right next to a RAV. And from there on, I saw so many RAVs in this community. Now,
Mm.
what has happened? My awareness level has been tweaked. My intimacy in the issue of the RAV and having to fix it has opened up other opportunities. It's opened up my saliency landscape. Now I see more
I was
RAVs
just
than I've
gonna
ever
say,
seen before,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's the illustration. Now, intimacy does that, because now all of a sudden, the more intimate you become with your husband or with your wife, the more you see navigational opportunities. The less intimate, the fewer navigational opportunities, the less excitement, the less adventure, the less enjoyment of each other, etc., etc. So this stuff is rubber meets the road stuff, right? And yeah, it will take you a while to think it through, because that's what it's about. One doesn't just, the lights go on all at once. We'll be blinded if the lights go on all at once. So the light just goes on, a little light here, and then we see a little more clearly, and a little light there. And in the meantime, life is happening. And then we discover, oh, but we're 80 years old. Whew, where's life gone? And hopefully
Yeah.
there are a lot more lights on when I'm 80 than when I'm 20, because it's about seeing clearly, seeing reality for what it is, and not running and moving in this make-believe world of magical thinking, where everything is just happening magically.
Can I've got a connection here. You and please let me know if it's appropriate to make that connection. I'm saying there's a connection then between intimacy and your level of transformation as well. Because if you're
Oh,
talking about how it shapes communion, are we not also talking about this whole thing, or the whole, not this whole thing, the whole fractal of, assessing somebody's growth stage, which is the level of transformation.
yeah, and it's
So
also
there
tied to
has to be a connection.
our level
Yeah,
of transformation.
yeah.
So transformation comes right in there, because the only way you gain wisdom is by transforming. You don't gain wisdom on the fly just because you're smart. No, it happens in the context of life, because life is busy throwing stuff at you. It's called reality. Reality. Now, my illustration is very It's a gruesome illustration. Reality is like a runaway train. And Lydia, that runaway train is headed for you. Are you ready to meet it? Just think of that. It's not saying, you, I'm coming. You better figure out it's coming, but you don't have to fear it. Because God wants you to live in the context of what is really real. We call it the ebb and flow of reality. It's the rhyme and the rhythm. Ebb and flow is rhyme and rhythm. Right? And you will find that you'll have to talk through it and think through it a lot more than what we're doing here. I'm giving you explanatory statements of what it looks like. And I said to Mom this morning, it's harder to explain to somebody how to live the Christian life than it is to live it. It's easier to live it. Just live it. Now you may say, well, even that is hard. Well, try explaining it all. Because even in our discussions, I can see when the lights go on and off. Right? Okay, didn't catch that. Okay, let's say it like this. Okay, how about turning it on his ear now? So even our explanations do have limitations because I can only explain a thing according to my limit of growth. I can't explain it beyond that. I have no capacity to do that. And that's where I'll hurt you because I'm giving you advice where I'm not living. So the cool thing to do here is to live wisely. And people will catch it because they'll watch your life and they'll watch it and they cannot argue against it. Now, I'm not saying you never tell them and never speak to them. It's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm just saying the reason often we struggle to explain something is because we don't live that reality. How's that? How's that for style?
Sure. I think that's what I'm just, you know what it takes me back to is when we first started life orientation, when that was introduced, you know, and our challenge when we started seeing different individuals try and teach it. And it's an example of what you've just stated now. How can you expect to mentor and grow and guide and give direction to young people when your own life doesn't reflect what you are explaining? Now, I'm not saying you're going to
That's
be
right.
perfect, you're going to have it all down, but
Nope, that's not what we're
it's
saying. Yep.
exactly, yeah, it's just how do you, because they're going to be asking you tough questions. They're going to be throwing you all the curveballs that they're encountering. And you, even with your years of experience of life and reality, I mean, if you're not sure, there's an
Well,
element that's not, walking in a way, how do you
that's a
navigate?
good
I just want
illustration
to
you're
know.
using. It has to be a reality in me first, and then showing the wisdom of that because it's life skill, it's embodied skill, it's inside you. It's not something separate from you because you are navigating with skill. How does that happen? It happens in the warp and woof of life. It happens in the context of what is real, the rhymes and the rhythms. We are so woke, Lydia, in this culture that
Yeah.
rhyme and rhythm means nothing to us. Milestones aren't meaningful. Birthdays are nothing. Celebrations are nothing. Rites of passages is nothing. We are so enlightened and we've come of age. And then you watch how disorderly our lives are. We can't even explain what a woman is. I mean, you will laugh when you see intellectuals wheel spin on that one. Wheel spin. I don't have a better word. And it's terrible when you wheel spin because you are so woke that you haven't woken up to reality. You've fallen asleep somewhere along the way, And that's the danger in our own culture, right? We've fallen asleep inside of reality, and as we wake up, we are so shocked where things have gone. So this again, as I said, these are huge subjects. You could do a couple of episodes just panning the depths of it, but it's important to have dialogues around it, right? What is wisdom? Is it something somebody can give you? You can't transmit wisdom from one person's head to another. Doesn't hotwire. It doesn't hotwire at all. Don't even say it doesn't hotwire well. It just doesn't hotwire. Wisdom is a skill you develop in the context of life and living as you relate to the source of all being, and that's God. And He imparts it in the context of the real world as I walk with Him. Walk wisely. Philippians, it's Ephesians 5. Walk wisely because the days are evil, redeeming the time. That's how what a wisdom walk looks like. It's somebody who redeems the time, somebody who makes the most of opportunities. It's living in the kairotic moment, the kairos. Kairos is the opportune time and response inside of a situation. And we all need that. I need a good dose of it all the time, not just sometimes. But we're on 10 already, 12 minutes past 10. So let's draw to a close. How does a session like this strike you? Just don't
I
say
think
it's
this is
you to
also,
death.
it feels like it. But talking about an ebb and flow, today is the ebb, it feels like. But it's good to also know what's happening, where you're at, and ask the questions. You're not going to grab it
Mm,
all.
mm.
But, if you don't ask, you're not going to grow and figure
That's
out
right.
what's
And
going
you're
on.
not going to be
So,
able to see. Yep. I can see clearly now, Johnny Nash says. The rain is gone. Okay, you have a good day and exercise those muscles, warm up,
the
and have a
muscles.
good day. Your
Thanks,
muscles.
Ted. You
Okay,
too.
Liz.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Cheers.